All right, we just got done the edge rankings. I am going to plug Brendan's podcast because I remembered this time. So we're going to do it immediately. So we're on to interior defensive linemen now. We just did edge. So, Brendan, plug your podcast. I remembered this time. How about that? Yeah.
Appreciate it, dude. Yeah, guys. So if you've enjoyed listening to me here on the Bitter Birds, you can find me more on Burton TD. That's our podcast. You can find us on Apple. You can find us on Spotify as well. I had a whole bunch of different guests on recently. Guys like Tyree St. Louis, offensive tackle prospect from the University of Miami, recently joined me, as well as a couple guys from Bleacher Report like Mello Miller and then also Connor Rogers. So if you enjoy me, guys, please check out my podcast there.
All right, so I think we know who the number one guy is going to be on both of our lists. So I'm going to ask this question instead. Who's the better player? Who's the better draft prospect, Nick Bosa or Quinnen Williams?
To me, it's Nick Bosa. And I say that, Adrian, because if I'm drafting really high in the draft, it's probably because my team stinks, right? So I need surefire locks. I can't draft guys who I think might be better. I think Quinnen Williams might long-term, Adrian, have a better upside.
Yeah.
But I'm more confident in Nick Bosa being a stud. So I would take Nick Bosa over Quinnen Williams.
Okay. You said that perfectly. I don't even need to rebuttal, and I agree with you. Nick Bosa is my number one prospect in the draft. So obviously he would be higher to me than Quinnen Williams. But there seem to be a lot of scouts out there that bang the table for Quinnen Williams and even have him as the top player ranked on their draft boards.
Yeah, and the thing about Quinnen Williams, and he's going to be both Adrian and my number one, so spoiler alert, let's just kind of, kill that narrative right off the jump. The thing about Quinnen Williams I think is so freaking cool is a year ago, Quinnen Williams was a defensive end for the University of Alabama. He went to Nick Saban and said, hey, coach, I know we have a bunch of graduating defensive tackles. I really want to get on the field. Can I play defensive tackle? He said, sure. If you can gain 40 pounds, and I think it was like 3 or 4 months, Quinnen Williams gained like 45 pounds. And then he moved the defensive tackle and became an absolute monster. So that's why you don't see the production. And that's always the knock you see about Alabama guys is it's usually 1 year production. The flip side is the reason it's 1 year production is because the guy who played before them the year prior was drafted in the first round. So it's hard for these guys to get as much, film. And that's why, Adrian, to me, like if I'm drafting early, if I'm a team like the Arizona Cardinals or the San Francisco 49ers and I know I have to get it right, I will take the guy I have more film on versus, say, a guy like Quinnen Williams who might have a higher upside.
Yeah. I mean, you got a guy here, violent hands, really quick first step. And out of the tape I watched, I don't know if I saw him lose a rep, to be honest.
No, he's a nasty SOB, man. But it's funny thing too is like he also seems to have a really good personality, which I know it shouldn't matter when we draft players, but I think we'd also all be lying to ourselves if we said it didn't matter a little bit, right? Yeah. When you saw him talk about Kyler Murray, he started off and someone asked him like, "What do you think about Kyler Murray?" And he's like, "I don't think he's all that," and just stopped because I swear in that exact moment. Nick Saban flashed before his eyes, and he's like, oh, no, I got to stop now.
I got to stop now. Oh, Quinnen Williams, baby. So you got a really unique blend of power and quickness here. And, you make the point there about all the Alabama guys. I mean, it's not even the guy before him that was drafted in the first round. It was also the two defensive tackles before the defensive tackle last year who were drafted in the first round. And the Redskins have all of them. And I'm, like, blanking at who they are right now. But yeah. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, again, like if you're going to be, say, I'm pro Nick Bosa, you're probably going to say, because I've seen more film of him, so I'm more confident. And that's just how I am. Again, if I'm really bad early, I'm not ready to roll the dice. The only exception would be if I'm a first-time GM and I know I probably have a little more longevity and a little more confidence of my ownership group, then maybe I'm a little more willing to roll the dice. But if I'm a GM who's maybe getting closer and closer to the hot seat, say like the Jets at number 3, you have to take the surefire thing, and you have to take Nick Bosa.
Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne. There you go. So the guys before Quinnen Williams got to Alabama. So there you are. All right, number 2. So you talked about this guy on our Edge show. I've got him ranked as an interior defensive lineman. It's Ed Oliver out of Houston. So you kind of talked extensively about him on the Edge Show. He talked about how he was a nose tackle this year and didn't really have the production as he did last year. Really looked disinterested the second half of the season. Houston wasn't really a big player in this thing, didn't play in the bowl game. So because of all that, it seems like he's kind of fallen. I don't know how far he's going to go. He's not going to go far enough for the Eagles to get him, unfortunately. But you see a guy here with a lot of quickness off the snap, and he's a stud to me. I think he's going to be a great NFL player.
I'm with you 100%, Adrian. Everything you said there. He's a gap penetrator. He's a guy who's going to get upfield. He's really, really explosive. To me, Adrian, I don't see any way he falls past 14 to the Falcons. Worst case scenario, I still think he's a top 14 pick. I agree with you. He's my number 2 interior guy. I think all this notion of him, sliding is a bunch of BS. I mean, if you want a box score scout, then yes, he's not going to look as good as some of these other guys. But again, as Adrian talked about, it's because Houston had him playing at nose tackle. Nose tackles don't get production. But as far as an interior guy, you want to put him at a 3 tech, yeah, absolutely. He's going to wreak havoc on you. He's my number 2 defensive tackle as well, Adrian.
Did you see the report, as I put in quotations, about him not having a good interview with the Eagles? To me, that seems like Howie's trying to set up a little smokescreen to have him fall, so then maybe they can go up and trade up for him. That to me, that's what that smells like. Did you see that report?
I saw that report. And Adrian, it's lying season. This time of the year.
Yes, it's Howie's season. This is what he does. Don't take anything seriously out of Howie.
Honestly, to me, like the closer you get to the draft, the less you should believe in these reports. Because at this point, NFL teams, they know their big boards. They know how they like players. So now they're starting to say, okay, all right, probably not likely Ed Oliver is going to fly past the Falcons, who probably are looking to get a guy next to Grady Jarrett. Okay, all right, here's what we got to do, because we're not going to trade the whole entire draft to move up 12-plus spots. Let's start making bullshit up about them. And that's really unfortunate for these players, to be honest with you, but that's the nature of the beast, Adrian. The closer we get to this, the more these teams realize the only way that we can get a player to slide to us is by making a whole bunch of BS.
Yeah, because it's not like you can just hand him a bong and a gas mask and he's going to take a rip out of it.
Yeah, you would think. You would think that doesn't happen, but you got some really messed up people in people's lives that are looking to plummet people's careers, which is still an incredibly shame for Laremy Tunsil. But again, Adrian, I see no way that Ed Oliver slides here to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, they would have to trade up to number 13, which is why we made that whole video and show about trading up for him.
Exactly.
So there we go. All right, my number 3, Jeffrey Simmons. Now, I know about the knee injury and the off-the-field stuff, but you want to talk about a combination of length, power, speed. Jeffrey Simmons, agile and flexible at 6'4", 300 pounds. Dude, I think he's a guy that can be a potential top 10, top 15 talent at the end of the day once he gets healthy. So he's my number 3.
I'm so mad, to be honest with you, Adrian, that he's your number 3, because he's my number 3 as well. Like, honestly, I could literally flip a coin for him being my 2 through 4 guy. Jeffrey Simmons, 6'3", 300 pounds. He's all day long what you imagine of an interior defensive lineman, but explosive and nasty off the ball. If you're going to be the glasses half empty type of guy, right? Glasses half empty, I'm going to say, okay, not a ton of sacks. All right, has the knee injury, so I'm only going to get him for, at best, maybe 8 games in the regular season this year. All right, also has that, off-the-field issue. We got to talk about that. He had an incident before arriving at Mississippi State where he repeatedly hit a woman who, yes, she was fighting his sister. And since then, all reports have been that he's been an upstanding guy and all of that type of stuff. But a lot of teams will take him off the boards. But as far as the talent, Adrian, man, he's a top 10 talent because of the knee and because of the off-the-field stuff that, again, happened several years ago. I think he's a guy who realistically could be there for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I don't see him sliding past the Colts. If the Eagles don't take him, the Colts will take him.
To be honest, I think this is going to be the pick in the first round for the Eagles.
I hope this is the pick. Like, for Philadelphia Eagles, this is the pick you should want because he's a guy, and I talked about this with Mello Miller last night on my podcast. He's a guy who's probably going to come in and let's say he plays 8 games this season, Adrian. You know what? You're the Eagles. You're going to the playoffs. So
Yeah.
he's not playing 8 games. He's going to play the playoffs too. And I could realistically see Adrian next season. This guy could be an all-pro next to Fletcher Cox. So why wouldn't you draft a guy with this much talent this late? The only reason I'm okay if you tell me don't draft him is if you personally have a very big moral issue with any domestic violence, men on female violence. I'm totally okay with that. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to tell you that that's your own personal goal and your own personal views. But from a talent perspective, yeah, there's no doubt. If he's here for the Eagles, I'm sprinting to the podium with this card.
Yeah, so you got Malik Jackson on like a 3-year deal here. So for this year, you pretty much almost have a red shirt, even though he's going to play that second half of the season. And then by next year, I mean, maybe Jackson starts, but you got Simmons that he's also going to be in the mix as well if you draft him. So, something to keep in mind. I mean, Malik Jackson is going to be making some good money, so he might be out of that deal after 2 years, and Jeffrey Simmons is your full-time starter by year 3.
Yeah, 100%, Adrian. And I think the other thing, too, we got to look at here is the signing bonus stuff, right, with like how much is guaranteed for Malik Jackson. So when you look at Malik Jackson's contract and we look at let me pull it up really quick here. We look at so 2019, he's got 2.8 and he's got 17 million total guaranteed. He's got 4.6 guaranteed in 2020, and then it gets pretty light after that. So if they wanted to move on from him after 2 years, not that bad of a deal. And you know what? Why wouldn't you want 3 killers at defensive tackle and rotation?
Exactly. Absolutely. So there it is. All right, number 4 now. So basically, we've had the same top 3. This might be the first show where we've had the same rankings. I don't know if it's going to stay the same, but we'll see. I'm going to say that we're both probably going to have Christian Wilkins at number 4. Yes?
No.
No? Okay, so we're different here. Now, I was not big on Christian Wilkins when I watched the tape again. So, again, it's like when you watch all these guys back to back, I noticed that Christian Wilkins' athleticism is not there like the other guys. And maybe I should have even slid him down a little bit further, because now that you're saying you don't have him at 4, now I'm feeling guilty. So you look at a guy here who can play defensive end or defensive tackle, and that helps the Eagles because, well, they're a team that likes to put some guys at D tackle on third down. But when I watched him, I just didn't see the athleticism as the other guys. He's more of an instinctive type player who thrives on awareness more so than athleticism.
Yeah, I would echo everything you said there, Adrian. And you know what? I wonder if my number 4 guy you didn't put on the list because of how you viewed him. I have Rashawn Gary as my number 4 guy.
Yeah, because I have him as an edge.
See, and that's like it goes back to a conversation we had on the last show. Ed Oliver, Rashawn Gary, these are guys that you could make an argument either way, to be honest with you, depending on how you view them and also what type of front you have. But I have Rashawn Gary playing defensive tackle. 6'4" is pretty darn tall. I mean, usually when you start getting past 6'4", typically you start becoming more of an edge, and then usually 6'2" to 6'4" guys are more interior typically. Again, there's exceptions all across the board, of course, like Brandon Graham's a great example of one of those. But I have Rashawn Gary as a guy who's going to be playing, in my mind, I think he's a better fit inside than outside here because of his flexibility, his change of direction ability. At least when I put it on film, wasn't comfortable for me to put him on the edge where he has to do more bending. I want to get him in more physical power situations and put him in a situation where I can get him pass rushing on the lesser of the pass blocking offensive lineman on a guard rather than a tackle. That's just my personal belief of him. Outstanding motor, outstanding energy. He's exactly what you want from a high draft pick in the first round. The flip side about him, didn't have a lot of production at Michigan. A lot of people are saying, well, maybe he wasn't used right. He also had a shoulder injury. So there's a couple reasons that you could point. But as far as an athlete, his very, very high ceiling, Adrian, I don't think he's a guy that's going to be there for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's probably a guy going to be going in the top 20.
Back to Christian Wilkins, by the way. Did you see the video of him fondling the genitalia of Curtis Samuel 2 years ago?
I did not say – oh, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did say this. Here's my thing.
I'm going to see if I can find this, actually.
As someone who is friends with a lot of offensive and defensive linemen, guys who have played at all different division levels, they're also the weirdest guys on the field normally. Normally, those are the guys who are a little bit different, to say the very least. So when I saw it, I was like, I got a couple buddies that used to tell me in the bottom of the pile some pretty weird things they would do. So I wasn't terribly surprised, Adrian, but I understand where you're coming from with that.
I actually have a video here. Hold on. Let me see if I can play this real quick. Should have been playing video. Now, this is not a clear video, but let's check it out here. So let's see him. Here he is. He's got a good, nice chunk there.
Yep. Gives him a little,
oh, yeah. That's some deep penetration.
Yeah, that's not the pun. That's actually a very literal penetration that we're talking.
That is quite a tickle.
Yeah. Now, Christian Wilkins, as far as an athlete, and this is probably a weird way to say this, but he does have really good hands. So this is probably really poor timing and choice of words here for me, unless you're an offensive ball carrier.
Not great fingers.
Yeah, not a great timing there. But one thing I want to see him do a better job at is really lock out better. When we say lock out, play with extension, if you guys imagine like you're bench pressing, you want to get that bar as far away from your chest. Same thing with an offensive lineman. I want to see him do this a little bit better. Versatile guy, can move up and down the line. I think his best fit is actually as a defensive end in a 3-4 team, but can move up and down the line. His versatility, Adrian, it just screams to me New England Patriot. So I think he'll be a guy who will go in the first round. I think he could be there. He's my number 5 edge guy. I think he could be there for the Philadelphia Eagles. But if he's there and Jeffrey Simmons isn't, then I'm pretty content waiting and going somewhere else in the first round.
Yeah. Okay. So he's your number 5 then.
He's my number 5, yep.
Okay. All right, so I got another Clemson teammate at number 5. I got Dexter Lawrence. So you got a massive dude here, 6'4", like 340.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got a lot of natural strength in his upper body, just simply overpowers guys. So he's going to be my number 5, although I almost had Tiller at number 5 out of Notre Dame. I was flip-flopping between the two.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. The knock I have on Big Dexter here.
Yeah,
he's a true D tackle. So he is really more of what you want as a 3-4 team playing head up on the center because he's at 6'4", 340. Yeah. He's not an elite pass rusher.
Yep.
Yeah, like if you remember guys like Kelly Gregg in the league and other guys like that whose job was pretty much to keep the linebackers free, that's more where he is. And like we talked about with Eddie Goldman, those are guys that typically get pushed down the draft board because it's just not a position that teams value as much. Jeffrey Tillery, and I'm glad you mentioned him, Adrian, he's actually my 6th guy. I think he's a guy who'd be in that second round and could be there for the Eagles. 6'5", 306 pounds. If you put on the Michigan tape and the Stanford tape, you would think this guy should be a first 15 pick. He's just an absolute nasty SOB. The flip side here is 2018 had a big issue with his shoulder, missed a little bit of time, wasn't super consistent there. Also suspended for the freshman bowl due to some violations in 2016. So there is a little bit of worry about maturity here for Jeffrey Tillery. But if the Eagles don't get a defensive tackle in the first round and you're thinking second round, Jeffrey Tillery could be a guy who could be here, and I think would be a really nice fit next to Fletcher Cox.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I think that could definitely be a possibility of a second-round selection for the Eagles if they don't go D-line in the first round. So just to echo that point. All right, that's it. I don't have anything else. We talked about the Ed Oliver BS with that report. I wanted to make sure we covered that. We got your podcast in, so don't have to do that. I got nothing. You got anything else?
That's it, guys. Like I said, to me, and I think it sounds like Adrian's coming around on this, Jeffrey Simmons is the hope if I'm a Philadelphia Eagles front office man. He's the hope who I'm sitting there is on the board in the first round.
Yeah, I am I'm there, and that's where I'm thinking they go because I'm just looking at that Sidney Jones situation and what they did with him, picking him. I think you got a similar type situation here, a top 10 type talent who's going to fall because of an injury. So I'd go get him.
I'm with you, brother.
All right, there it is. That's Brendan Albert. I'm Adrian Fecchio. And the other reason why I go get him, I didn't like Christian Wilkins as much when I watched him again. So I was like, all right. And then he tickles, and I'm not a tickler. So there it is. We're out of here. Peace.
Appreciate it.